with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the 8 ways you're able to level up your 2024 plans. So the first one we see is extremely effective and efficient is product templates and libraries. We did a little bit of an analysis of about 300 PLG companies, and today, only about 30% of them are leveraging templates. And so I think it represents a lot of opportunity for those who are willing to make some of the effort and build into that area. You can capture quite a bit. And so for each of these, we're going to be working through kind of this format of some of the examples of why it matters, and then a little bit of details on kind of what you need to make it work for you. So templates, and template libraries just give a visitor a very, very helpful thing. They're trying to find something. A template just helps them move faster, do their jobs better. It prioritizes content for you that's aligned with the product features, keeps you very product focused. Generally, I'll show in a moment, templates attract more backlinks, which builds more authority for you, typically than a lot of blog posts do. And then, sorry, there's a little bit of delay there. Templates tend to make really effective inline CTAs. So instead of just littering, blog and your site with start now or sign up now, be able to really tailor some specific things and put a template in front of someone who's reading about that exact thing makes a big difference. And this generally streamlines your product. So instead of someone signing up generically, coming into a blank product, you're able to put them right in, kind of streamline onboarding and put them into doing what they need to do with your product. All of those highly impactful. And it's generally, I think the best case scenario is you have product engineering resources, data. You're actually able to build templates that people can click, sign up, and start using that template within your product. That's a great scenario, but there's still a lot of opportunity, even if that's not available to you, to be able to do more with downloadable templates, things that are Google Sheets or documents, slide decks, things like that. Creating the CTAs, like we said, that are going to be able to kind of help push people into those templates are going to be another asset and way to make it work. And then just generally wanted to note, there's companies like Notion, Arrows that not only have to build some of the templates themselves, but also can leverage their customers or users to build out the library as well. It just adds so many unique use cases and long tail ways to do it, and in some cases can even kind of sell that, which is not necessarily necessary. So a couple examples, just kind of looking at that. It's quite a bit redacted in here, but on the left you can see relative to the number of users, just a very high amount of conversions in a month. Some of these being 30 to 50% conversion rate. So really impactful and showing a lot of intent there. And then on the right side, essentially showing the number of links to some of these templates. And you can see a few in the middle there are blog posts. I think maybe have 50, 60 backlinks to them, which is still, pretty solid for a lot of blog content. But some of these templates having, hundreds, all the way up to maybe 500, 600 backlinks. So just a lot of different benefits that can come from investing in some of that. And then just some quick examples. Canva is a great one. A lot of accessible templates, things you can do from a visual standpoint. Teamwork has some great product templates that you can actually click that button, start using that template in the product. Like I said, not an empty product. Similarly, Visible, one of our clients, is investor updates tool. And so they've been able to leverage, kind of go find some of the standard templates from different VC firms and how they recommend investor updates be done, put these in here. And then similarly, you go into one of those, click get this template, open it up in the product, and get started. So a lot of great stuff that can be done there to just push people right through and right into that. And then lastly, I mentioned Arrows before. They have the Vault, so a lot of different workflows and things for their product. You can see, made by Arrows, and there's a mixture of things they've created and things that users can contribute as well. So all leveraging that. And then similarly, again, is going into a specific one, use this template, put someone right in. So a lot of great stuff there. Moving on, existing updates to content, content decay, things that have been talked about for quite a while are still extremely impactful, and in some ways are becoming more and more necessary of just the amount of content being created. by companies, and in some cases leveraging AI to go faster. There's becoming a bigger need. So it matters because it just prioritizes the user experience and the trust, making sure they're not landing on something that's a couple of years old or slightly outdated, or the product screenshots don't look the same. It gives you, looking through the data, some great ways to look at how intent has maybe changed for the keywords. We know that content that's ranked before it's indexed, it has links. When you do refresh it, it tends to perform much faster than a new piece of content. So a good way to just kind of get that quickly. And you just have the ability to, be smart and prioritize stuff that has the largest click loss, conversion loss, really be able to just know that you're focusing on the things that are going to make the biggest impact. We typically recommend at the very least twice a year, ideally quarterly, and in some cases, if you have a lot of content and a lot of competition, potentially monthly, that you are looking at the data, 3 months over 3 months, or 6 months, and just be able to look and see where there's the most impact. And then with that, having a source of truth, whether that's Google Analytics or something else, that you can kind of layer in the conversions and really understand business impact from that. And then most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but still a very important part of it is you have to have space to address it. So if you cram your roadmap and plans full of all new content and you don't have a way to address this, then you start to kind of get thrown off. So you really have to have that. And I actually go much deeper into all this in a webinar I did with ClearScope last year. So it's still available on their website and on YouTube. So really going through a lot more of how to actually find it, fix it. And then, as I was just saying, some of those systems and processes that allow you to be able to stay on top of this on a regular basis. And just a couple of quick examples. We love, content updates, especially this time of year. They turn around quickly. And when they do, if you kind of do that over the next 6 weeks, make a little side project or whatever, you really kind of set yourself up to start January 1st with more traffic and kind of gaining some of that back and heading into the new year strong. So definitely still a big area. We see a lot of success with clients and opportunities for a lot of companies. Number 3, integration pages and content. So this is a huge one. I think is probably one of the most overlooked opportunities for SaaS companies. We did a bit of an analysis and found that for the actual pages that talk about the integration with another product, when people actually build it out versus just having a few hundred words, they're getting about 10 times the amount of organic traffic to those pages. So don't just toss it up there with 1 or 2 sentences about what it does. Really take the time to build it out, and it can be a pretty great way to build some additional traffic. So again, just giving users a solution. They're trying to understand how it integrates. It's important. They have their own tech stack that they need to know your tool integrates. So allow them to see what they can do and how they can connect. You can leverage the popularity of other tools and brands. I think Slack has been a big one for a lot of people to be able to kind of draft off of that and get more traffic and awareness. Again, similar to the product templates, sort of can onboard people directly into what they're trying to do and solve their problems. And then lastly, current customers, customer marketing is all important, helping people get more integrated, more entrenched in your product. They have more integrations set up. And in some cases, depending on how you price it, potentially some upsells with that as well. Making it work, if you have hundreds or thousands of integrations, you're certainly going to want to leverage something programmatic with dev and be able to have some templates and scale that and not have to write them all, yourself one by one. Ideally, you can have the full access. Like I said, I'll show an example in a second. We don't want to have just a couple hundred words describing it, really build it all out. This is another awesome area. Don't sleep on the ways CTAs can pull into that when you're talking about certain things that involve an integration or something else they want to do in the product. Again, CTAs can push a lot further into there. And then if you have integrations, whether it's 5 or 500, you have the opportunities to do deepen those relationships with those companies, do co-marketing, a lot of different things to just kind of help promote and share. Awesome example of this is Shopify, which I realize this screenshot doesn't actually say Shopify, but this is the Klaviyo integration page on the Shopify website. So you can see ratings, reviews, videos, screenshots, and the page, goes down. There's much more text than even what's shown here. So a lot of detail that you can tell just gives so much more context and helps someone understand how that's going to work in the product and how they'll be able to leverage it. And then the big thing is beyond those pages, like it's important to optimize those pages, but we're seeing just a ton of opportunities to then have, we work with companies understanding, okay, with this integration, what are some of the most common things people are using that integration with your product to do, and then building content around that. And so the left, how to create social media graphics in Buffer using Canva integration, perfect example of how that works, and just walking someone through that. Maybe they're just trying to figure out one side of that, come across this and realize, oh, these integrate, I can do it all together. And so you really start to expand out and be able to leverage that. And again, it's just so deeply tied to what someone is trying to do and making their life easier, making them better at their job. There's just a lot of intent there. Is it fourth? Middle of funnel content. So a lot of different ways people define this. So just, prospect or visitor understands a problem that they have and they're looking for a specific solution. So we see a lot of success with middle of funnel content. Reasons that it matters. It's just giving users that solution-centric content. So again, they know their problem and just trying to be very direct about, we know you know your problem, and we're just going to get right into the solution. It's just a great way for people to compare options all at once. It gives your team the ability to kind of control the narrative, which is important. And typically these pages convert much higher than others. So we'll show some of the data on that in a moment. How to make it work. I think it's important to understand, internally you may talk about things a certain way and think about them one way, but realizing that some people may think about customer service software or apps as customer service, customer support, help desk. And so just being mindful of that and kind of exploring all the opportunities there. Really is helpful to add some sort of methodology section within the content and just make it clear that there was a process that went about it. It's not just your company's opinion. And then, thinking about your ICP and adding that into the differentiation. So don't just say best, best software or whatever type of software, but really getting more specific and saying, this is best for small businesses. This is best for HR teams or a certain budget, things like that. And then lastly, it may be a temptation to be humble. There's really no harm. You'll see examples that it's pretty typical. Companies are putting themselves first. So don't shy away from that. We see that works quite often. So looking at some of the data here, there's two things to point out. One, a lot of conversions inside that purple box on the right. But if you also look at the average session duration, and this is something that we see, this is probably a more extreme example, but we definitely see this pattern. You're talking about having someone on your site doing the research they're going to do anyway, for potentially 10 to 15 minutes, on average for these. And so that's a substantial amount of time for someone to spend on your site, understand what you're doing, leveraging what you've put there, and just like you're kind of building that trust and being the authority for them. And so a lot of impact and influence from that, and how that looks, in this case, best glucose monitoring apps. You see, NutriSense put themselves first, have some great data and a lot of information there. So there's that. And then, on the Twilio side, email API services. This is, the top, a good example of putting a category differentiation. You see this a lot on, like, if you do consumer product research, best overall, best on a budget, best, different kind of like categories to help differentiate there. And then another thing that we see that works really well is just having some sort of visual differentiation to let people kind of quickly gravitate towards, this part, key benefits, quick bullet list. So even just a slight light gray box can make a big difference on visually making that stand out. Real quick, just wanted to kind of highlight before I continue the rest, just three major ways or big reasons why companies choose to work with 10-speed. Just if you're not as familiar with us, just a little bit of context. So A lot of companies leverage our experience and strategy framework to be able to kind of get out of this phase of trying to figure out what works for them and just leverage our ability to kind of get that clear path for them. A lot of companies do come to us just to like tap into our experienced team, our tactical efficiencies. We have very transparent processes, so frees up their team with bandwidth to be able to let them focus on other areas, and we continue to keep things moving forward. And then lastly, we just have a big focus on getting the most out of content. So not just create new, but how do we make sure we're getting the most high intent topics? You've heard me talk already about different CTAs being really relevant. Also talked about existing content performance. So a lot of things we want to do to just like keep the content that you have going. So all that together are a couple of the ways people tend to work with us. If you'd like to chat with us about any of that, 10speed.io/book call would be great. So moving on, the multi-format content I think is really important. And so what we mean by that is, different formats kind of all being integrated into one piece. We've seen this work extremely well. So, in this case, just gives someone visiting much more than text on the page and keeps them on the page longer. It helps just kind of show how your perspective comes through, beyond just the writing. And it kind of helps keep all of your stuff here. So your blog strategies in here, your podcast is doing something else, videos, really make sure that everything's kind of staying aligned and working together. And it just generally differentiates your content experience from competitors. And, you don't want to just have your podcast only be distributed by people finding it on Apple or Spotify, or, some examples are videos just sitting on YouTube. You want to find other ways to get it in front of people to get more out of the time and effort you've put into that. So it does require, investment in other types of content. I think podcasts and video are probably the most common, but research reports, all those types of things, they require some investment, but really can kind of, you can get a lot of a runway out of them when you spend the time. Again, you do need to have that strategic alignment and make sure everyone's kind of planning and moving towards the same things so that it works together. You do want to make sure that ideally most people are using a CMS that works with this, but having the ability to embed things within your content is definitely a necessary aspect. And then lastly, just having things where there is like data or demos or videos or things that are going to like bolster your main argument. So I think those are kind of the key things there. Again, some great examples. Visible, they could easily just write about the funding stages and just kind of like spell it all out. But within that, they've embedded a video, which is actually part of an 8-episode series going through a lot of the steps and details in just one part of this. And so ways that people can kind of see that, find a stage, and then go deep into a totally different format is a really big deal. Databox has a lot of great content, and then in here, this video that's inside the content is actually a video of some of their customers talking about these topics. And so it's not even just the company talking about it, but they've taken the time to go find customers and record them and put it all together just to give people more perspective and more voices on that topic. And lastly, the image on the right is a creator economy report that Sprout Social put together, and a lot of data in that report. And so they were able to pull that into, this trends post that just lets them show it's not just, talking about the trends, but really pulling that in and showing some of the data and reinforcing that and making it differentiated because they put the time and effort into getting that and be able to put that into their content. Which leads me to differentiated content. It matters because you need to be the place that people find the best information, and it doesn't feel like it's just the same information that they could have found by clicking on someone else in the SERPs, and the AI can't just generate. And doing so, really helps kind of create a moat using subject matter experts or just data access that people don't have. this also just makes it easier for teams to share. Like, I think if your post isn't really any different than anyone else's or other content types, it doesn't make it as interesting and exciting for the rest of your company to share and promote, and just generally gains more backlinks, more opportunities with having these unique insights. So more ways that you'll get information there. And then just generally, if people can tell you're going beyond the bare minimum and not just writing for search engines, then you just over time continue to build trust and gain fans and interest in your product. So how to make it work, exploring the types of differentiated content that's like accessible to your team. So there's a variety. The easy way, you've heard me mention a couple of times today that we just spent some time analyzing a large set of companies and pulling some of the data related to those that we could get access to. And so there's ways you can just do it. You don't need to have a lot of work that goes into it or a lot of resources. But obviously, you know, on the harder side is actually pulling product from your own software, surveying your customers, a lot of those things that, again, like those are valuable because you're putting the time into it and you can get a lot out of it. But you don't have to have all those resources. There's ways you can be a little more scrappy and do things from a third party standpoint. Really important aspect of this is if you're going to go to the trouble of doing that, you really want to make sure there's a system, a place where all this information is available to your writers so that it is actually making it into all that. So whoever put together the report or did the analysis can't be the one responsible for going and trying to put it into everything. You need to put that into the hands of people with the context they need so that it starts to just naturally be getting added to other content that you have. And then I think the big thing in an area where we help a lot of companies is just helping them understand like you can't go do a big first party data report and a lot of differentiation for every single piece of content. And so helping know when it should be used, when it shouldn't. And then just in some cases, like, hey, what if there's a report or an analysis on this that could be used on, this huge list of opportunities. So that's another thing that I think is necessary to make it work, is just kind of being able to identify where it should be added to things you're building, and also differentiation retroactively. So great examples of this. Gong, I think, has been cited quite a bit, but just quickly, they could have easily just written about what's an ICP for sales, but when they're able to pull in some of their data, show some unique insights, it just really levels it up quite a bit. Another example, again, from NutriSense, again, you could kind of just talk about normal levels of blood sugar. We could cite other things, but in addition to that, they're able to pull data from their own product, put it into a table, add some unique stuff and some visual assets. And then in the bottom right, also just taking the time to seek out some third-party subject matter experts outside the company and be able to, inside or outside, depending on what you need, and be able to just pull in some of that extra expertise and perspective that isn't just I'm reading an article, but I'm getting quotes, I'm getting a lot of information there that just kind of helps show you put the time into it, gives someone else additional perspectives, all of that. And so moving into EEAT, there's a lot that we obviously could cover and go really deep on this, but I think I think a few of the things of why it matters to be understanding those guidelines and following them is just you want to be showing that there's accuracy and it's qualified. It certainly is important, and I think is showing some positive effects for a lot of companies. That some of the spammier stuff is getting deprioritized, and so the folks who are doing it right are winning. Your team can leverage, the search quality evaluator guidelines, and so like you have a pretty good map of like what should be done, how to be doing it. And I think a really important part of this is, especially as we kind of work with our clients on strategy and all these things, is like it forces you to think about how you're going to demonstrate authority, and like even just picking topics, like, is this something we should be talking about? I think are really important. And just generally, I think the more you're kind of aligning towards these and moving forward and doing the right things, ideally can continue to keep more consistent performance over the long haul. And so, making it work, I think that this, there needs to just be a lot of emphasis on who the content creator is, the company credentials, making sure you're, like I said, kind of picking the right topics, things you should be talking about. And then, another is just, this is not just, oh, let's put an authoritative person as the author, but really understanding authority comes from other things. So backlinks, PR, like any of those types of things, personal brands. And then lastly, the trust side is not, this goes far beyond anyone just thinking about, SEO and content, is things like, if you have SOC 2 compliance or any other security things, how accessible content or contact info information is, company reputation, reviews, like all these things are going to factor into that, overall. So it's not just a post by post thing. It is also a company-wide thing. So really something that I think is all promoting good things, which is, let's have good, reputable companies who are talking about things they actually know and not just writing about things to get traffic for the sake of traffic. So a couple of quick examples. A lot of call outs here, credentials listed, the author info is hyperlinked to their bio, date of publishing, also a reviewer in this case with their credentials, and then going to the page, again, clear demonstration of credentials, a link to a third-party kind of validation with that, other articles, kind of pulling it all together, really showing a lot. So, if you're kind of missing some of this, or all of your content is posted under, the company name or marketing team or something like that, there's a lot to kind of consider with this. And then lastly, internal linking is not new by any means, but it is still extremely effective and therefore warrants being on this list of 8 things that are working. So again, just a lot of opportunity to connect relevant content together, intuitive navigation, show the authority, also for the search engines. And I think, a big thing is, unlike backlinks, your team just still does have a lot of control, be able to kind of effectively show what content matters, have the most links pointing to it, driving the most, internal visitors from one to the other. And then obviously, as you're thinking about the clusters and doing, building links to all of that, you want to be able to kind of pass some of the equity throughout. And so really to make it work is important to have a clear, pillar cluster strategy, kind of know what your roadmap is and what you're working towards. And you want to have good documentation. You want to make sure that people are actually understanding how they should be internally linking and why they matter. From a content standpoint, really making sure the briefs call out what should be done and why. You want to be building these over time and not have to keep going back and changing them or doing them in bulk. And then lastly, like you want to be able to kind of work through your strategy and make sure that you have a clear understanding of like what should be linked together and why, and kind of mapping all of that out. So Klaviyo is another great example, again, kind of going into a topic and kind of understanding from SMS marketing standpoint. There's a lot of great stuff kind of all pulled together under the topic. And then when you go into a specific post, what is SMS marketing? They have links to other stuff within that cluster that kind of help people, if you want to just navigate, you're here and you want to go into the examples or whatever, just great UX, but also connects it all together. And then, when you look at sort of the link graph, if you will, for this specific post, you can see a lot of the stuff that they have, and it's all built together and works very nicely for that. So it's really important. I think we come across a lot of clients that just have, this has not been a priority, and it kind of builds up over years, and there's an opportunity to really go in. So if that's something that's not in tip-top shape, I think it's another great way for you to go look and figure out what needs to be linked. Are we getting links to the most important pages where we really want to show signals to search engines and also be driving anyone who's on our site to those pages? So another great opportunity there. And lastly, just a quick bonus, what we've seen that's really not working across clients and some prospects that we talk to on a regular basis. The first is what you call kind of like AI content mills. So we've seen some examples where there's a lot of content produced, just generated outright without much human involvement on the AI side. Short bursts of traffic leads to regression, and then we kind of end up with this big mess of like low quality content, lots of internal conflicts, different things like that. Another issue we've seen, and maybe a bit of a growing pattern, I know there's some other folks who posted on LinkedIn about this. There's like this issue with internal teams just driving towards perfection. And so while we are very much in the camp of, things should be quality and not just written for a search engine, I think that the issue is things happening at the expense of business impact. And so if you were to say, is something, we really want something to be 10x better than everyone else, like that's great, but like, does it need to be that? Can you still differentiate? Can you still show authority? And can you still drive, build a brand, drive pipeline if it's only 2x better or 1.5 times better? So things like that just really, I think, can kind of help or cause teams to get in their own way that we've seen. And then very common that we've come across, and so you potentially have experienced yourself, is like a ping pong strategy, like every 1 or 2 quarters, changing what we're doing, changing what we're trying to accomplish, what our goals are, the strategy, the topics, whatever it might be. So if you're thinking about next year and kind of experiencing this in your company, really would encourage you to work towards something that you can feel confident, that you can give it time to materialize, and a plan that if you are going to adjust, they can be kind of incremental and not like a hard pivot. So summarizing everything here, we talked about product templates and libraries, existing content updates, integration pages and content, middle of funnel content, multi-format content, differentiated content, EEAT and those guidelines, internal linking, and then also what not to do, the content, AI content mills, seeking perfection, and ping pong strategies. So with that, we will kind of just work through some Q&A. I see there was a couple things just within the chat. Look like they've already been answered. So you probably can see those. Certainly anything else you want to add into Q&A now, we can do that. All right, so recommendations for video content. Can you clarify like what, like what topics or? Right. So yeah, if you can clarify a bit more on the video. Okay. Cool. So we got 2 questions here. So best ways to promote video content. So like we said, in the multi-format, that tends to be a great way. If you already know this is a topic on this post or on this page or wherever it is on your site that someone's already reading about, and you have video content on that topic, perfect place to embed it. Outside of that, certainly, promoting on social, different things like that. But I think that is really the best way. If you have a library of a lot of great content, video content, and you can actually go back and say, we think there's opportunities to create blog posts on these topics that we can then embed. I think they kind of can work both ways. So Evan, I'm very into the idea of differentiated content and leveraging internal subject matter experts. Feel buy-in is hard to cultivate. How do you do this? Yes. It can be. I think that's one of those things that's feels very similar to just companies. What like some companies are all bought into content programs in general, and some aren't. So I think it feels very similar. I think that one of the biggest things is one, just have to find a way, like kind of the format and process that works well. So you like as much as possible, not being a burden. If you can spread work out across multiple people within the company, so that a person doesn't feel like I'm trying to do my job and I gotta, comment or add on all this stuff. So like spreading it out, having lead times so that they can not feel like I got to turn this around in a day or two, but getting ahead, like you build in the lead times so that you're asking them far enough in advance that they can have time to add to that. And then I think if there's not even buy-in of like they don't understand why they should do it, then I think it really just comes down to like, why would we not want to show that we have a lot of experience in this? Every software company is trying to explain why they're different and why they're better. And that should just be another example of how you can do that on a small basis. It's not just about your homepage headline, but really feeding that into content. So I think that's what I would recommend most tactically, is like not putting it all on one person, spreading out the workload, building in the lead times. And then if they're still not buying, just explaining. It's a great way to differentiate. Good question. All right. Anything else? Okay. If you're in the middle of typing, go ahead. It doesn't like give me a way to know if you're in the process of typing a question. So don't stop. But if that's kind of all we have for questions, that's fine. Certainly feel free to reach out. You can contact us there. Otherwise, I think that wraps everything up. So thank you very much for joining us today and chatting through this. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out to us on social, send us an email, whatever you'd like to do. Happy to chat. Thank you.